what we know of as COPPA, which is the Child Online Protection Act. And I'm so glad that they do, because it is really important that we are protecting children on the internet. And they've really cracked down on YouTube. You can be in videos, but if you're in videos, if you're under the age of 13, there's a whole host of new rules, and you can't have live chat. There's all kinds of things that you can't do. And so that's why my helpers now have to be over 13. So you can't be on...
but I can still talk.
Yeah, shh, no, not really. Okay, so do me a favor and tell me, or pop a thumbs up or something in the comments if you can hear me and if you can see me, and we will get started. I'm trying to give my little comments helper here.
Can I say
Hi, Bryn. How are you, sweetie?
Could I say the comment?
Let's see.
Mom.
Okay, so look right here, sweetie. See down here? See down here? So when somebody comments, it pops up right there. So if you can, yep, you raise your hand and you tell me when you have some comments, and then I will reply. Okay, so today we're making a really basic recipe because it's important to know basic skills, and it's also a time in our society where we can't just go to the grocery store anymore and buy whatever it is that we want. I went yesterday for the first time since the quarantine, and I couldn't get what I needed. I had to just figure out what they had and then come home and make a plan based on that. So we are doing homemade cheesy skillet. When I was growing up, this was called Hamburger Helper, and it came out of a box, and it was all powdery, and it tastes okay. Then I didn't really know any better, but it's not good for you at all. It's mostly mostly chemicals and processed food. Okay, comment?
It says hi, it's Bryn.
Yep, Bryn said hi already. Thank you. So let's go through our ingredients and our equipment. So I'm going to use 1 pound of ground beef. And so if you are using more, then just adjust what you're doing. This is not like baking. This is not an exact science. This is just kind of an about. So it's okay to just use what you have. If you have a different kind of ground beef than I do, no problem. If you have 1.5 pounds or less than a pound, totally up to you. All right. We're going to talk about ratios of ingredients as we go along. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to put my stove on. I'm going to put it on the I'm going to put it on 1 notch under high. So mine goes from low to high, and then it does 2, 4, 6. So I'm going to put it just under high, and you want to make sure that the person that is at the stove is old enough to be able to manage hot grease. That's a really important safety tip. So if you have never done this before, and you don't have an older sibling or an adult with you, then you need to just watch for today and do this again later. So we want to make sure we're being really, really, really safe. So I have 1 pound of ground beef, and I've got 2 cups of sugar. So sugar, did I just say sugar? That automatically comes out of my mouth, doesn't it? Cheese, shredded cheese. So if you've got 2 pounds of ground beef, then you're going to want to double that for the cheddar, for the cheese, whatever kind of cheese. You can have mozzarella cheese, you can have cheddar. I have a trio blend, it doesn't matter. whatever kind of cheese that you want. I've also, for my 1 pound of ground beef, I've got 2.5 cups of milk and 1.5 cups of water. So again, we can go through the culinary math if you're doing more than 1 pound of ground beef. Sweetie, will you hand me a knife over there? I didn't grab one of those.
A big one or like the
Whatever, just any one that you can reach. Thank you. All right, so I have this tube that I'm just going to estimate what 1/3 is. And in just a moment, I'm going to turn the camera down so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. So here we go. I'm going to try and do it nice and slow so you don't get nauseous. And widescreen. There we go. How's that look? Okay, perfect. So I want to tell you about one of my most favorite. Let's see if we can put it. This is called a Star Tool. Mine is from Pampered Chef. This is probably 15 years old now. I think you can now get them at the dollar store, but I love them because it's going to allow us to brown our ground beef like this and really break apart the pieces, and I love that. I think that you can even get them at the dollar store now. So I'm going to put just a little bit of spray in the bottom, and you could put oil or butter. I have one of those, now where did I put it? I have one of those sprayers that I put olive oil in it. So this is about 1 pound of meat. So I'm going to pop it in here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to cover that back up for now, and I'm going to leave it on the plate. And when I'm done, I'm going to cover this and safely store that in the refrigerator. So you can hear this sizzling. So I'm going to press this down until it's nice and flat, and we are going to basically let this brown until there's no pink left. We're going to cook this all the way down, and that's going to take a few minutes. So while that's doing that, I'm going to just chit chat with you about the ground beef. But notice how I'm going down and twisting, up, down, and twisting. I've got a handle in my hand, and it's like I'm crushing it. I'm trying to crush it. You have a comment? No. The sizzles, yep. I'm starting to hear the sizzles. And so I'm just going to keep doing this until it all starts to brown. And this is what's called browning ground beef. Some people call it hamburger. A hamburger is actually a patty that you eat, but we all know what you mean. No big deal, right? Okay, so while I'm doing this, I'm going to flip the camera back up. Try not to make you nauseous. I don't have that whole over the head set up yet. So this morning I cleared out my pantry, and if I kind of move out of the way, you can kind of tell that I've gotten all the expired stuff out. Everything is back in order in my pantry. I have all kinds of room. Super excited about that. And that took me about 3 hours from start to finish to do that. I had no idea I didn't remember that it took that long from last time, but it's all done, and now I know what's in the pantry so that when I go to the grocery store or I'm thinking about, what should we make together, I know what's in there, because before it had just become a big old mishmash and I didn't know what was in there. So now I do, and it's all organized, and we are ready to go. So I'm browning this ground beef, and it is not cooking very fast, so I'm going to turn it up a little bit. So I noticed, here's something that happens to pans. So I'm going to put you back down, nice and slow. oops, sorry. Okay, notice my pan wobbles like this. That means the bottom of my pan has warped. And so it's not a flat surface, which makes this take longer. I didn't know that about that. That must have happened recently. And so that's why we spend money on really good pots and pans that last a lifetime, because when you don't, that's what happens. It wobbles, and then you don't have a flat surface on a flat surface and cooking nice. If you've got gas, it's not that big of a deal, but I don't have a gas stove because I don't have a gas line coming into my kitchen. It was really weird. Okay, so notice how this is starting to brown. It's less pink, a little bit tan, but notice all of the grease piling up. We're going to drain that. So let's talk a little bit. What I've got next to me is I've got a metal bowl. What's important about this, you don't want to put the grease in a plastic bowl because it will melt, and a glass bowl could break. So I always have a metal bowl, and then I have a strainer, and so as soon as we're done here, I'm just gonna gently pour everything into the strainer, and that metal bowl is gonna catch all of the grease that has cooked out of my meat in different percentages of fat. So you've got a lean percentage, which is 90% beef, 10% fat, all the way down to a fatty version, which is 75% meat and 25% fat. And this was an 80-20. That was all they had left at the grocery store. And so that's what I got. So notice I just had a couple of pieces here that were caught in my star tool, but for the most part, this is all browned. Alrighty, oops. Will you go just press the off so that it doesn't keep ringing, and then unplug it for me? Okay. So, I'm going to move this out of the way. And normally I would do this over at the sink, but because we are kind of limited by our camera here, I pulled the bowl over here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the stove so that it does smell good, doesn't it? Okay, and then I always have a spoon rest to keep my counters as clean as possible. So I'm going to put my star tool down, but I am going to use a spoon, and I'm very carefully, now depending on how old you are, you may want to take two hands and have someone assist you with this. Usually adults will do it with one hand, but so I don't have anybody here to help me, so I'm taking one. I'm very carefully going to drain the ground beef into the bowl, into the strainer. Okay? Do not do this if you have not done this before or you don't have the assistance of an adult with you. Okay? Now I'm putting it back on my stove, and I'm going to lift the strainer. I'm shaking it a little bit, and then I'm gently going to put the ground beef back inside the skillet. Okay? And then the strainer is going to go back in the bowl, and I'm just going to let that cool down And when it cools, it's going to solidify, and that is going to you'll be able to wipe it out. Okay. No. Okay, so now we're going to add all the rest of our ingredients. So we've browned the ground beef, we've discarded the fat. Now we're going to add the pasta, the milk, the water, and the spices, and we're going to stir it all to combine. So I need 2 cups of pasta. This is not an exact science. 1, 2. Here's my milk. That's 2 cups. This is another ½ cup. I'm going to turn my skillet back on to high. Now this is my warm water. It's a 1.5 cups of warm water, and I pre-measured all of the spices, but I'm going to tell them to you right now in case you're measuring them. So this is a tablespoon of cornstarch, a tablespoon of chili powder, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 teaspoon of paprika, and if you like it spicy, you can add a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne and a pinch of crushed red peppers, but my kids don't like the spicy, so I'm not going to add those 2 things. Now, I'm going to point this up again. Oh, did we cut out? How are we doing? How are we doing over here?
No comment.
Okay. This says
Clipped audio will sound. One moment.
yeah. I have a big red light, and so I just want to make sure everybody's getting to see it. All right, let's just double check. Okay, it looks like we're okay, so no worries. I'm going to keep going. All right. All right, there you go. Okay, so if you have different spices, that's okay, right? You definitely need the cornstarch to thicken it up. If you don't have that, you could do 2 tablespoons of flour, and then whatever spices you have, right? This is not an exact science. So a teaspoon of 3 or 4 different things, right? So a teaspoon of garlic, or 2 teaspoons of garlic. It really is not an exact science. It's just based on flavor. So I've poured all of that in, and it's very soupy. So we're going to bring this to a boil, and basically we're going to boil all of this water off. We're going to bring this to a boil, and then we're going to let it sit for 10 or 15 minutes. And just like when you make taco seasoning, it's really runny when you start, and then when it's done, it's nice and thick. It's not runny at all. So when this comes to a boil for about 10 minutes, that's what's going to cook all of these pasta noodles, because we didn't cook those ahead of time. So we're going to cook the pasta noodles all right in this same skillet, and then it will be ready for the shredded cheese. So I'm going to, if you put your handle aside, make sure that this stove isn't on when you put the handle over in that direction. If you have a block of cheese, this is a good time to go ahead and shred the cheese so that you can, so it will melt easily. And now it's just a waiting game, right? So if I was making dinner right now, which we kind of are, right? This is what we're going to eat for dinner tonight. Right now, while this is sitting here, I would be prepping my vegetables. So I would be washing lettuce if I was having a salad, chopping up tomatoes. What vegetable should we have with our cheeseburger skillet tonight? Broccoli or green beans?
Green beans.
You want green beans? Okay, so we would be snapping the green beans. If we had them fresh, or if you had them frozen, then we'd put them, our frozen is the kind that you can just pop in the microwave right in the bag. It steams them right in the bag. It's really great. If you have a can of green beans, then you would open them and warm them up. My water is starting to boil, and I'm going to stir this every couple of minutes because I don't want anything to harden and stick to the bottom. And so to do that, I'm actually going to switch spoons to a non-scraping spoon. I had a metal spoon in my hand, but I want to use one that isn't scraping the Teflon from this pan. So any comments, any questions? Okay, let me see. Hey, Bryn, give me another, give me just a thumbs up or a like or something, just so I can see. Okay. If you're on YouTube, give me a thumbs up in the chat or say hi. I can tell that there's 4 people watching, but I can't tell who it is until you actually put a comment in there. So, yep, you keep watching this. That's your job there. Say hello if you can. All right, if you're actually cooking, I don't want you to get distracted by saying hi. You can say hi later. And be sure, pretty please, to take a picture and show me what you made. Post it on Instagram or Facebook, or I don't think you can post the picture in the comments in YouTube. So it would have to be either Instagram or Facebook. And my water is starting to boil. Very nice.
That smells good.
It does smell good, doesn't it? It smells like a cheeseburger. Okay, so while...
Spicy cheeseburger.
I didn't put any of the spices in it because I want you to eat it. Okay.
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet? Alrighty. Oh my goodness. All right. Oh my gosh, 17 comments. Something we're not doing right. Okay.
Wait, let me read them off.
Okay, let me see. All right, we're while that's boiling, we're trying to figure out
There's
how. Wait, oh, there we go. Oh, no, we lost it now. Comments on. There we go. Okay, yay! All right,
So let me read them. And Becker's watching.
Diana Becker, my biggest fan. Hi, sis. Gianna says 2.5 milk, 1.5 water.
Cups.
Us two, says Lisa.
Slow down, please.
Slow down, please. Okay. It's a little late for that now.
Cindy asked what were the spices again?
Oh, so I did 2 teaspoons of cornstarch and then a teaspoon of your favorites. So
2 people asked that.
chili powder. I did 2 teaspoons of garlic, 1 of chili powder, 1 of paprika, 1 of salt, and 1 of sugar. Those are the ones I used. But again, this is kind of like choose your own adventure.
Cindy
Yep.
and Yessie say we see you.
All right, so I see Yezi, Tanya,
and then
Cindy,
and then Bryn says I'm still here.
and Bryn says I'm still here. All right, awesome.
So am I doing comments off this one?
Yes, that looks like it's better. Okay, so I'm going to let you see what my recipe looks like. So it's boiling. And now that that is come to a boil, I'm going to turn the heat down to simmer. So that's all the way down. If your oven doesn't have a simmer setting to it, it's like a 1. It's your lowest setting. So we're bringing the heat down.
Diana asked, can you do it without cornstarch?
You can. It will take longer for the water to drain out. So the cornstarch is a thickener, right? You could try putting just 2 tablespoons of flour in it instead. The cornstarch just is a thickener without it getting goopy, right? That's the benefit of cornstarch over flour. All right. So now that it's not boiling, we're going to cover this.
Karen or
Karen, how are you, my love? All right.
Diana
Yep.
says allergy substitute.
Oh, that's right, because is it both B2 and B3 or just B2? I don't know. They have a corn. And are you cooking with them? Yep.
Hey. Karen says hey.
Hey. All right. I've got too many spoons going for my
Spoon 1.
for the number of
Spoon
spoons.
2 and
Yep.
spoon 3.
Okay,
Just
so
B2. Diana says just B2.
just B2. Okay.
Diana Becker says not today.
Not today. You're not cooking with the boys. Okay, so we are letting our cheesy hamburger skillet simmer with the lid on. That takes anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes. It's been going already for probably 3 or 4 minutes. So what you can do now is you can measure out your cheddar cheese if you want. I'm not actually going to measure this. So this bag says 3 cups. I need 2 of these cups. And so I'm just going to guesstimate. Another way that I measure shredded cheese is I know that if I take as big of a handful as I can in my hand, that's approximately 1 cup. And of course you can measure it if you really want to. This is low-key quarantine cooking here today. And so I've got my cheese ready for when, let's put a timer on. One of the things that is my biggest challenge with ADHD is getting distracted. And then I burn things, not when I'm baking, but when I'm making dinner. So at a time like this, where we're supposed to cook it for 10 minutes, I would sit here and chat with you, and 15 minutes will go by and then the bottom of the pan is burned, and I'm notorious for it out on the grill. So I have to stay really focused on what I'm doing so that I don't get distracted. I also have to pay close attention to my recipes because, again, I'm very easily distracted. And so when you do get distracted, timers are your friend. So when I'm grilling or I'm cooking like this, even though I know, oh, I'm just going to be standing here in the kitchen, I can, wait and just watch the clock, I need that timer to beep. Because in a normal situation, I'd be all over my kitchen. I'd be chopping vegetables. I'd be kind of gathering the kids and saying, come on in, wash your hands, that kind of thing, unless they were helping me, which they do a lot. So the timer is really helpful in the kitchen, especially if you get distracted easily. All right. Yep. Okay. No questions. My little comments helper. Karen, I'll have to send you a picture so you can see how big she is. Come stand next to me, but face that way. I don't think this will break. Look at how big she is. My very good friend Karen hasn't seen you in a long time. Remember when she used to toddle around from my office to your office? Do you remember, Karen? She's saying, no, I don't remember you. That's okay. It's been a while. We'll have to fix that when we get through all this crazy quarantine.
Mom, are these all people you know?
These are mostly people. There's a few people that I know, but I've had so many people. I've had almost 2,000 people now come through the cooking school. So sometimes it's hard to put a face with the name as the numbers really start to grow. Speaking of that, we've got
Cindy.
2 more minutes. Cindy says,
No, Cindy's
oh,
watching.
Cindy's watching. Hi, Cindy. We are really, really hoping that by the time our first week of summer camp comes around on June 22nd, that we are past the worst of the pandemic and that we're going to be able to hold summer camp classes. However, I know that it's really hard to plan. So what we have done is we are allowing people this year to go ahead and register for classes, but you don't have to pay.
Cindy says hi.
Thank you, sweetie. So you can register for classes. It's not tying up your money, especially in this time where you're just not really sure what's going to happen, and then we don't have to worry about refunds. For those of you that have already registered and paid, we are going to figure something out. We will definitely, if things are still closed, we'll have e-learning, very similar to this, a little bit more structured and more planned. You'll know what, you'll have the recipes in hand. This was, a last minute deal. But of course we will adjust the price accordingly. But my hope is that everybody continues to register, especially since you don't have to pay. That way we get some kind of an idea, because it takes so much planning to get ready for this, especially if we have to go e-learning and make kits, all of that kind of thing, then that helps us know that when they do lift the quarantine, the stay at home, shelter in place, I think that's coming. I don't know when, but I do think shelter in place is coming. And then, we know that you're still planning to come to summer camp. And if you need to wait until then, we understand that too. So we're all trying to just figure this out day by day, aren't we? Okay, my timer is about to go off, but mine is not finished. So I'm going to let that continue for a couple of minutes. We want the pasta to be al dente. So what does al dente mean? Al dente means when you bite into it, there's just a little bit. If you were to slice it open, there's just a little bit in the middle that looks like it's not cooked all the way. And the reason you want to pull it out when it's al dente is because the pasta continues to cook even when you take it off of the stove. And so if you cook it for too long, it's going to get mushy. There's probably 9,000 ways to describe al dente, but that's a good kids version description of what al dente means. Some people try to throw it up on the wall. I've never been successful with that, and my parents didn't like that particular option, so I've actually never used that technique. All right, so I'm taking my lid off. We're still on simmer. Oh yes, this is perfect. So now what I'm going to do, mine's kind of sticking at the bottom a little bit. And so now I'm going to add my cheese. Okay? So, where'd my bag of cheese? All right, here we go. So, let me put you back down. How's that?
Smells like noodles.
And that's because there's noodles in there. And you can use this with any kind of noodles.
That's a lot of
I used elbows. You can use it with penne, whatever you like.
I'll taste test the cheese.
Okay, so I'm just going to stir this. I'm going to kind of fold it in. I'm going to let this cheese melt. And it's going to be ready at this point. Got a nice cheesy pasta hamburger skillet. You can call it whatever you want.
That looks
Yum bo.
That looks weird.
Does it look more yellow than you were expecting?
It looks more soupy.
Okay, so you can serve this right away, and this is also one of those great recipes that you can kind of leave on the stove, and as the people in your family are coming and going because their schedules are really different. I know, for a while, one kid had karate at 5:30, another one had it at 6:30. So this is one of those dishes that it can just stay in one pot. It's easy to reheat. It's what I would call an intermediate healthy, right? You could make this a little bit healthier by using ground turkey, or do a half and half, half ground beef, half ground turkey. You could use a little bit less cheese. You could add some vegetables right in here. My children don't like to have the vegetables mixed in with their entree. They like to just have their vegetables on the side. But you could totally have chopped up some onions, some tomatoes, some sweet peppers, just about anything that you can think of that your family will eat. Easily customizable, super easy to make. If we weren't doing this on the video, this would have been, done in about 20 minutes maybe. So I'm super happy to have you here with me today. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we're going to have an early dinner, which is going to be nice. Oh, they're both behind the camera going, no, why would we eat dinner now? It's only 3:45.
Not me.
Nobody wants to even test what we're eating?
No.
I do.
If
No?
it has macaroni or whatever type of
My
noodle
son
that
doesn't
is,
eat pasta, so
No.
but there's just no. I figure if you've got 4 people together, there's at least one of them that doesn't like whatever it is that you're making, so that's pretty normal.
I'll try it.
Good, I'm glad. So,
But I'll taste
tell me
test
in the
if I have-
comments before we go, tell me in the comments whether you liked this. Do you want me to do some more? Do you want me to keep it with basic foods because there's not a whole lot of options at the grocery store? Give me a little feedback so I know what to do for our next meal. I do have 2 other Facebook Lives and YouTube's live everywhere. I'm going to try to figure out how to stream on Instagram, but I've never done that. I would love it if you stopped kicking me. Okay? No, thank you. So on Wednesday, we're going to talk about making the perfect cookies, and on Thursday, I'm going to go through all of my stash of cooking tools and show you the ones that are fantastic to use with toddlers and preschoolers. So if anybody's got younger kids, then these will give you some ideas of things maybe you weren't thinking about using with them to get them involved in the kitchen with you. I use them both with my own children, and we learned those at White Bear Montessori, which is a lot of practical life skills right in class. So thanks so much. I hope to see you again soon. Any further comments? You're supposed to be watching.
Oh,
All right. Tanya
Tanya
says it's great. Thumbs up. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm so grateful that you all are out there and I have somebody to talk to and to interact with. Even in these limited ways, it's comforting to be able to continue to connect in this way. So I will see you on Wednesday. All right. Now you can.
Do what?
Yep. Here you can slide.
Can I do it?
Yes.